Your website is a living, breathing thing. Business, it's not static. As you're growing and things are changing, it's going to constantly show you where you're not showing up and where you need to improve. The sites that we deal with that do very, very well have a community aspect. My gut instinct said, if they're going to buy the one product, give them a way to buy it sooner and skip all that other stuff. And skipping all that other stuff always hurt conversions. Buy now on the homepage, it's basically you're kissing the girl before you asked her name. I don't think the business can outgrow the business owner's mindset. Typically, most businesses are stuck at where their owner believes their inherent value is. People who have accountability partners tend to get much better results. The main reason why people don't buy is, one, they either don't trust you, or two, they have an unanswered question. If you can describe the problem they're having better than they can, then they think that you're the automatic solution.
As I understand, you started with like construction, like physical brick and mortar, and now you're talking like digital and conversion optimization for. So how did that transition come about?
I was in commercial concrete for 23 years. And so I had grown it to about a 30-person company, and we were traveling all over the country. So I was on the road a couple hundred days a year. Went to a Tony Robbins event. He sold me a program called Money Masters. And it was a monthly DVD and a little booklet. And it had Frank Kern and Russell Brunson and Dean Jackson and all these OG internet marketers. And I'm like, oh my God, I've never used my computer to make money. All we do is blueprints and send proposals and communication, but never to make money. And so I started looking at ways to do that, and started selling t-shirts at night on a site called Teespring. You would make like a design or a saying and put it on a shirt and then run Facebook ads to it. And the first 3 years of doing that, we sold about $15 million of t-shirts. And I said, I'm doing this, and I'm selling my brick and mortar business, and I'm going 100% online. And so I did.
What happened with the t-shirt business?
It was that platform went away. They grew really, really fast, and then took a bunch of private equity, and then just kind of fell apart. And so I kind of switched into Shopify from there. And then literally we were selling kitchen products, and I was really good at driving traffic. I wasn't good at what we do now, and realized that there was a lot more ability to create a lot more sales if I understood the data and analytics and conversion. And so I did that and got really good at it, and started doing it for my friends that I was selling t-shirts with. And that kind of became the business. So I didn't have to run ads anymore.
Jumping back to Matthew, with the transition between, this is the site I'm using, this is where I'm making, I assume, the bulk of my revenue. Now that's gone, and now I have to transition to Shopify. I think for a lot of businesses, sometimes that happens, that you put all your eggs in one basket and something happens outside of your control and you have to pivot. Was that a difficult transition, or was it pretty easy to get set up on Shopify and keep revenue consistent? What did you do in that medium?
No, for sure. I didn't make that much money for 2, 3 years. I just I just don't give up. I just keep going until I figure it out. And so, yeah, no, it sucked. But thankfully I try not to live beyond my means. And so it was, yeah, we just moved on to the next thing and built a new business.
Right. So in terms of navigating the kind of loss of one stream of revenue before starting another one, was live within your means and just keep going. Just don't give up.
Yeah, don't give up. You got to figure it out. Like if other people have done it, then it's doable. You just got to figure it out. And that's basically what I did. Just kept plugging away and getting better and better at it.
Yeah. There was a quote from a guy we spoke to recently that said, winners are just losers who never gave up, which I think is kind of encapsulates what you just said there.
Yeah.
It sounds like a $15 million t-shirt idea, Becky.
Yeah.
So Matthew, you mentioned you went to the Tony Robbins event. Do you recall what it was that basically caused you to act and buy a ticket to that event?
I had already read a couple of his books and followed him, and thought his information was great. And so then when I went to the I think it was UPW was my first one. Yeah, and bought, drank the Kool-Aid. So
You've helped what, hundreds of companies at this point cross the 7-figure threshold and some even 8 figures. Is there like a mindset shift that happens at each of those transitions? And if so, could you kind of share that with us?
yeah, for sure there is. I think I don't think the business can outgrow the business owner's mindset, and so I really believe that that's kind of the secret sauce to growing and scaling is putting the work between the 6 inches in the 6 inches between your ears. Um, Typically, most businesses are stuck at where their owner believes their inherent value is, and to get beyond that, they have sparks of it. But I always use that thermostat analogy where if they think that they're worth a couple 100,000 a year and they start making 250, they find a way to get it back down to 200. So it's too warm and their air conditioning comes on and lowers it back to where they're comfortable. And until they learn how to uh, raise their thermostat, they're going to continue to struggle.
What are some of the ways that they can raise their thermostat?
100% personal integrity with themselves. Like that's how you raise it. Like if you say you're going to get up at 5:30 in the morning, you get up at 5:30 in the morning. Like most people are really good at doing what they tell others they're going to do, but they're not good at they're not good at doing what they tell themselves they're going to do for themselves. And so that just perpetuates that feeling of I'm not good enough or this is where my value is. And so I think the subconscious keeps us from seeing what we don't believe is true. And so until someone's there, a mentor or a coach or whatever, to help you see your blind spots, you're going to keep hitting them.
I think that's such a powerful point because David and I are both coaches, and I'm sure you've in the Tony Robbins world been exposed to a lot of different mindset hacks or mindset ways of shifting. And that the thing you said about the thermostat, I think was a really good analogy because you're right. If we feel comfortable at a certain level, then even if we start to go out of that, you'd think we might shift with that. But that takes a conscious decision to shift with that rather than allow it to come back.
Because most of our life is on autopilot. And so we're not actually, um, we feel good and we celebrate that we're doing better, but our subconscious story hasn't changed many times. And so it's dragging us back. It's really obvious once their subconscious story changes because then they break through that upper limit and move into the next phase of, of where their growth is.
Mm-hmm. And you said about having personal integrity. So if I say I'm going to get up at whatever o'clock, then I do. And that sounds simple, right? If you say you're going to do something, do it. But so many people, myself included, struggle with that, especially as you said, when the accountability is only within myself. Seems to me the difference between motivation and discipline. Have you got any hacks or any tips that help it become a discipline as opposed to needing to find the motivation?
Yeah, I think for sure people who have accountability partners tend to get much better results. And I think that's why a lot of high performers get coaches. A lot of times the coach is not telling them anything that they don't already know. It's more of a reminder, or it's a way, or it's a new perspective shift of how that shows up for that individual that they can't see themselves. Our brain is always trying to conserve energy. So if you think about it, uh, you can drive to if you drive, to the grocery store or to the office every day. You can get in your car and drink a bottle of water and eat a sandwich and drive and not even know if you stopped at the stoplight or what happened because your brain is literally doing that on autopilot. And so I call it's more like a banner blindness. And so having someone who can point things out to you that you're just not noticing, which is what we do on people's websites all the time. they're on their website all day long looking at it. And then we jump on and start critiquing it. And they're like, oh my God, I've never seen that. Oh my God. Oh, that's so obvious. I'm like, of course it is, but not to you, because you see your website every day. So you're not looking for that stuff. And life is the exact same way.
There's a lot there that I love to unpack, but maybe I'll just touch on what you mentioned regarding coaching, Matthew, and kind of the perspective you bring as an outsider looking at someone's book, if you're proofreading it, or their website, if you're optimizing it, etc. I think we often categorize things for better or worse. Maybe it's just a heuristic to quickly process something and move on. And we think of our brain and our body as separate things. We think of ourselves as separate people. I mean, in some case we do. I can't use your driver's license, for example. But I don't think that's really how we're supposed to think about it. Our body and our mind are obviously connected. Like the more healthy you are, fit, well fed, whatever, the better your mind's going to work. The better your mind's working, the more fit you'll be, etc. And then similarly, I don't think my mind is supposed to just be a vacuum in my own shell. It's like as you hook up with other people, it becomes a new molecule. Like a hydrogen atom can become water, become any other element. So I do think that that's kind of an unlock. And so because it seems when you describe coaching, for example, the way that it's defined by the International Coaching Federation, for example, it sounds like what exactly are you doing? You're telling me stuff I already know, like you're asking me questions to but it's actually super powerful because it rewires neurons and helps people learn to fish. Like they already knew how to fish, but you're just kind of showing them that they know how to do it, or unlocking abilities that they have rather than giving them little sips of water every time they come to see you, which would be like giving someone a fish rather. So it's one of those professions where if you're doing it right, you're kind of losing customers. I'm curious with your website optimization, do you look at it similar or is it different in some way?
No, it's similar. Just to feed off of what you were saying, I think the mind and the body, the people who are connected to their body are much, much more aware and have a lot more capacity to grow. And I think most of the reasons why people are disconnected from their bodies is because when they're younger, it's not safe. Um, they're 100% dependent on someone else for food, shelter, learning, love, etc. And so when they don't understand something, it feels unsafe, or they have big feelings and everybody wants them to be quiet, and so they learn not to express their feelings, so they think their feelings instead of feel their feelings. And it's amazing how when you get someone to, I ask them all the time, well, how does that feel? And they'll tell me a story. And I'm like, well, that's a great thought, but a feeling is actually warm, cold, tense. Where do you feel that? And then it's amazing to watch them have to actually refire that habit because we're in such a habit of just thinking what we're feeling instead of feeling what we're feeling. And so, yeah, I do that same exact thing with their websites. I will ask them, well, when you look at this, how does it make you feel? Because people have a feeling. It's unconscious most of the time, but it's very easy to go, oh, yeah, this feels chaotic or confusing, or yeah, we need to simplify this. And many, many times, when you get them to start looking at it that way, they become really good at it. The other thing that I wanted to say about the coaching aspect, um, I think where a lot of coaches get it wrong is they try to give advice. I really don't. I think that that's a disservice to the client or student that they have, because you haven't lived their experience. You don't have their life experience, and so really what's true for them might not be what's true for you. And so I think a good coach probably spends 80 to 90% of the time asking questions to help them find what's true for them, rather than give them the answer or give them advice, because many times that advice doesn't actually work for them. And I think that's why people that go, oh, just do this, this, and this, and people will do that and it still doesn't work. It's because they're not doing it from the same place.
Yeah. It's similar to what we were talking about with reading before we started recording, Matthew, how this app Blinkist is someone else's summary on a book and they might be missing certain parts. So you see like someone who's drowning, you're like, oh, you look like you need hair gel because your hair is a mess. And they're like, no, actually, there's something else. I don't know what it is, but there's something else. And when you give advice, it's a little bit more restrictive. That's something I'm learning in a coaching course I'm taking now. I'm trying not to give advice, but one mistake I made was kind of mirroring what the client was saying regarding like an external situation, something in the office or something they're dealing with. And what my mentor coach was telling me is by talking about the event or the trigger, you're keeping the mind in the analysis state rather than talking about like what do you want for yourself in the situation or what would you like to become, and that's more like expansive. And I think that probably connects unconsciously to like what your body needs, because consciously you're kind of trapped in this like bottleneck. So I was curious, like what you said resonated. Does that align with kind of where you're coming from?
Yeah, 100%. And typically, when they give an answer, I will ask them where they feel that, and then really get them to feel it. And the way that I basically try to sidestep the unconscious, because it's trying to keep them safe, which means I don't want to explore something different. I want to stay where I'm at. And if you get them to describe the feeling that they're feeling in detail, I always say, well, describe it as if, so that I would understand exactly what you're feeling. And for them to describe it, they actually have to feel it, so they can't avoid it. And unconsciously, they'll be trying to avoid it until you do that. And then it feels safe to just go ahead and describe what I'm feeling. So you get them to feel the feeling without having to fight through that unconscious barrier.
I always think so. My mum is a mindset coach and a life coach. And I was very, very lucky that that was who I was born to, because she barely ever in my life has told me what I should or should not do. She's just asked me questions, which has enabled me to explore the world in a way that has been much more open, I think, than if she were to direct me and give me advice and tell me what I should and shouldn't do. Sometimes I do want my mum to just tell me what to do, give me the answer, but I do think it's the better thing to allow that exploration.
I feel like should is a shame word, and it's our way of keeping us believing the unhealthy stories. Because when we do something that we wish we hadn't, most of the time the self-talk is, oh, well, I should have known better, or oh, I should have done this. The truth is, whatever happened, couldn't happen any other way because it didn't. And so should is a shame word to keep you believing that you're not good enough. And if you can learn to stop using those words, I think the words have spells, on us. And so a lot of times our own self-talk keeps us stuck.
So, without using the word should, what could business owners be doing with their websites to convert more? If we use that as a segue into that conversation.
I would say they could choose to decide, and they could choose to do something different. The moment that you go from I should do that to I chose that, because you did choose the thing that you think you shouldn't have done, but you take ownership of it and you let go of the natural resistance that your body has to it. If you think about, when we're giving advice, I don't want to tell them, well, you should do this and this and this. I want to ask them questions so that they can come up with what they think would be better. And then they're bought in, and are much more likely to do it instead of defending why they did it.
One thing I've seen when I've looked at people's websites, when they've asked me to kind of give them feedback, it seems like there's box ticking on the back end. Like I need a heading, I need a button here, and no judgment, but just there's a lot that they're organizing on the back end to make sure that it's presentable. But then they're kind of blind to it's not communicating at all what they want. There's this disconnect. And when you walk them through it, as I'm sure you probably have a similar way of helping them get there. One analogy that came to mind, Matthew, was restaurants. So when you go to a restaurant and you get a menu, if it has pictures of the food, they don't show you pictures of the ingredients typically. It's pictures of the food. And many people, when they show like the website, it's as if it's like pictures of the ingredients. I was curious what your thoughts were there and how you get people to have pictures of the food.
I've never heard that before. I like that a lot. And I will for sure remember and use that when I'm talking to them. Uh, I can tell you we're very data driven. And so, I mean, we do this 7 days a week and we still guess wrong all the time if we don't have data. When we have the data, it's a lot more predictable. And that's why over the last 10 years, we've been able to predictably create success again and again and again because we're using data to do that. And I'll give you guys, your listeners, a tip that is probably responsible for probably half, 5 out of our 10 biggest wins over the last several years. And that is putting a question on the thank you page right after someone has just bought or given you their information and says, what was the one thing that almost made you not buy? And they will tell you what they didn't understand, what information they wanted, what they didn't like, where there was friction. And we take that information, go back and optimize it based off of their ideal client, which is someone who just gave them money, who trusted them. And it works like magic. It's pretty amazing. And anyone can do it.
That's a great piece of, well, I don't want to use the bad word advice there, but that's a really good tip. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's staggering and humbling. The level of complexity that you're unaware of when you have this bright idea and you're like, oh, this is going to be amazing. Everyone's going to love this. And then the smartest people that you know are always gathering data and you're like, haven't you figured it out yet? It's like, you'll never figure it out. There's like infinite variables and permutations and you need to gather data, analyze the data, iterate, adjust. And it's more like swimming rather than just like, oh, I swam like 3 strokes. Now I'm good. I'm just going to float forever. You have to keep doing it. You have to kind of love the process.
That's exactly what we do. Yeah, I think your website is a living, breathing thing. You know, business it's not static. It's in fact, I think going back to the coaching analogies, I think it's the ultimate inner game because as you're growing and things are changing, it's going to constantly show you where you're not showing up or where you're not good enough and where you need to improve or where you need to level up. And so it's constantly requiring that of you. And I think that's why a lot of people choose not to do it after they've, given it a shot for a while.
Yeah, it's like, again, the box ticking. I have a website, like done, next thing. But yeah, it's very different. You talk a lot about the psychology and buyer behavior. Could you walk us through one example of where it had a massive impact?
Yeah, the form fields. So I think the checkout has always been the most valuable part of the website because that's where the transaction takes place. And we track in the form fields like the errors. And what we noticed was under email and phone number that there was a lot of errors, like a lot. And people don't realize the number of them. And so I was reading a book by Robert Cialdini called Persuasion, and he was talking about an experience where uh, 10 people would ask if they could cut in line, and the people would say no to 8 of them and let 2 in. But then 10 new people asked and they gave a reason, and they gave all different reasons, and they let 8 of them cut and only turned away 2 of them. And so the concept was people don't mind giving you the information if you give them a reason why. And so we tested that theory in the form fields because there were so many errors. We thought, well, it just says email. Why don't we tell them why? And so we said email required for order confirmation. It reduced the errors by 279%. So almost 300% less errors. And we also noticed that our abandoned recovery went up because now we're marketing to their good email. The order confirmation email is the most opened email that you'll ever send. It's about an 85% open rate. People want to see what they just ordered and make sure that it's accurate. And so they don't give their spam email. So the recovery went up from that too. And so then we went to the SMS or the phone and said phone required for shipping notifications. And we found similar results. And that's the number one source of revenue recovery is SMS. So it's we've got as much as a 17% lift on stores by doing that, getting good quality information and preventing those errors right where the transaction takes place.
It's really interesting, isn't it? Because when you say a couple of things that you've shared so far, so on the thank you page, asking people what nearly made you not give the information or buy the product, and then just telling people we're asking for this information for this reason, sounds very simple. When you say it, you go, oh, yeah, that makes sense. But it comes back to the blindness that we don't know we have. If you're looking at your website all day long and you think, wow, this is shiny and this picture is brilliant and this testimonial is great, but it's the small things like that that make a huge impact. Do you have any other examples of from the data you've gathered of the small changes that make a huge impact?
Yeah, I would say another principle is the hierarchy of focus. So each page should have one main action and then maybe a secondary one. But that main action should stand out more than anything else on the page. And so a lot of times people, the next most important action is to hit a button. And people think, oh, I want my website to match. And so they have a black and yellow theme and they use black and yellow buttons. And they don't realize that that button blending in with everything else doesn't make it stand out as the next most important thing. And so they get caught up looking at a whole bunch of stuff on the page rather than what you want them to do. And so what we found is it's not the button color that matters, it's that the button doesn't match everything else. And then the text on the button actually creates more of a lift or a loss if you don't get it right by asking for too much. So like quick add or buy now on the homepage is it's basically you're kissing the girl before you asked her name. And so what we say is maybe learn more or more options or uh, multiple colors, things like that, that so that when they click it, they know they're going to what they're going to go to next. But if they're not ready to buy and the button says buy now, they're like, oh, I'm not ready to do that yet. And so there's this unconscious pause, which creates less conversions.
I'm curious as well from a statistical perspective. E-commerce with products versus services, which are usually give me some information and then we go from there, or there's a call booked. Is there a significant difference in conversions between the two?
No, because it's still either way, you're educating them on what your unique value is. And if you do that well, then they feel like they know, like, and trust you. Because if you can describe the problem they're having or that they're trying to solve better than they can, then they think that you're the automatic solution.
Can you share a time when the data told one story, but your gut instinct or emotional intelligence told another, and what happened?
Yeah, for sure. I've always thought less steps in the process would convert better. And for the first 3, 4 years, I kept testing it again and again and again, and it never won. So, like, if you put the PayPal button on the product page, for some reason, that never converts as well as if you put the PayPal button in the cart or in the checkout. And I've always thought, well, if your average average sale is only like 1.2 products, so many of your people are only buying that one product anyways, it has to be able to win. And we never got it to win. And I just think it probably goes back to what's prototypical, which is what is the standard way it's done. And anything different than that feels like a broken experience. And so I think that that's why we couldn't get it to convert more. But yeah, like my gut instinct said, well, if they're going to buy the one product, give them a way to buy it sooner, and skip all that other stuff. And skipping all that other stuff always hurt conversions.
It's interesting. I've had a similar, so my background is in sales coaching, similar mismatch there of data versus intuition, I guess, is that when it comes to follow-ups, intuition, I think for most people is if you send a bunch of follow-ups, you're more likely to annoy somebody. But actually, the data shows us that if you send a bunch of follow-ups, you are more likely to get a conversion. You're more likely to get something. And so many salespeople that I work with will not send more than 1 or 2 emails because they don't want to be that annoying person. And I always say to them, I get it. I feel the same way. But we're proven wrong over and over again that you are way more likely to get something from it if you just keep going. I guess like anything in life, really.
Yeah, and then I think the conversation that I would try to have to get them to overcome that would be, do you believe that your product, do you believe in your product, and do you believe that if someone has this product that they're better off or not? And if they say yes, which hopefully they do if they're selling it, then do you have an obligation to do everything that you can to help as many people as possible by getting your product? If you're selling a shitty product, then no. But if you have something that's of value and it's going to help them, then you have an obligation to do your very best. And the stats are this is what you do.
You've said site speed and trust signals are critical. Can you give us a mini audit checklist you'd use for a first time site review?
It would be difficult to generalize that much. I will. What I would say is, I always look to try to enter the conversation that the person's having at that point of the sale. So similar to, buy now on the homepage, they don't have enough information to make a buying decision. So that's not entering the conversation. Many times sites are very confusing because they have too much stuff on them. And so what they do is they force the 20% of buyers that buy 80% of the products to go through a journey that is way more complicated than it needs to be because they did their own customer service for the first 6 months. And every time someone asked a question, they thought they needed to put it on the website. And so over time, they create a lot of questions for people. And I think the main reason why people don't buy is one, they either don't trust you, or two, they have an unanswered question. And so if you can try to eliminate the paradox of choice and make things Homer Simpson simple, if Homer Simpson want to understand what you're saying, then you can simplify it and you will get more conversions. And so I think those principles work really well. And then the other thing is to stop looking at your website from the owner's perspective of here's all the stuff that I sell. I want to show it to you so that I have a better chance of making a sale, and look at your website from the customer's perspective of how do I find what I'm looking for. And the moment you do that, your website, you'll see a bunch of glaring errors that make your website seem slimy and salesy instead of a problem solution.
AI is something that small and medium sized business owners, well, really everyone is looking to use in different ways, see if it can give them a leg up. How is Build, Grow, Scale approaching it?
We're using it every day. Every single person on our team is tasked to use it and come to our meetings with what they've learned and how we can use it more. Uh, what's really cool is where it used to take 15, 20 people to have a, $3-4 million a year website. Now you can do it with 5, because you can, if you use the tools, you basically supercharge each of your employees. And so instead of having to add a whole bunch more bodies, a lot of times just your employees are a lot more capable.
Are you using like automations or anything like that?
Yeah, for sure. Shopify has them. I would say a lot of our work, we're still using the large language models. And the reason why is because it's probably the smartest person on the planet. And if you're not getting advice from them, uh, you're shortchanging yourself and your clients. I like we've been feeding in data, like all of the sales data for the last year, all of the Google Analytics data, all of the shopping reviews. And then we start prompting questions like, hey, our average order value is $100 and our conversion rate's 2.5%. We want an average order value of $140 with a 4% conversion rate in the next 90 days. What would we, can you look at this data and give us a 90-day roadmap to hit those conversions. And the idea is, it takes a little bit of finessing, but the better you get at and the more times you practice, the information that we're getting is just unbelievable.
Mm. So when it comes to, you said about instead of needing, was it 15 people down to 5? I think those are the numbers. So when it comes to leadership, when you have a smaller team, but you're using tools that, to use your word, supercharge people, in a world that is becoming more AI dependent, and we're always, I always think it's funny when people say, oh, we're at unprecedented times. And I think, aren't we always, aren't we always at a place in the world where things are crazy? How do you navigate that as a leader when you've got teams to manage, when you've got people to manage the chaos of AI, the world?
Well, I really think our job as leaders is to give them the tools that they need to do their job. And if you've hired, or if you trust the people that you've hired, um, they have the autonomy to improve things. And I think that a lot of times they're on the front lines doing it every day. And as the leader, there's a lot of stuff that you're completely unaware of. And so I think really empowering them and giving them the tools they need to do the job, and know that you are standing behind them, give them the permission to make mistakes as well. Uh, yeah, it's worked really well for us, and I genuinely enjoy coming to work every day and working with our team. I don't have any need to like worry about if I said something wrong or do whatever, because we treat each other very well.
Before we started, or maybe we had already started, that a lot of companies have a people problem. Can you expand a little bit on that?
Yeah, I think going back to what we were talking about, I don't mean that the people problem is the people aren't qualified. I think a lot of times those people have unconscious things going on, or they have mismanaged expectations. And so that's on the leader as well, to make sure that the expectations are clear and they know what they're responsible for. But it also means when someone's struggling, to be able to recognize that and help them through that struggle. A lot of times will be way more than giving them business advice, and will yield much better results, across all the other parts of the business that they touch. So I think for sure, in my own journey, and then coaching other entrepreneurs through that, it's totally changed the dynamics of our teams that we have, because we have ones that do Google Analytics, and then we have developers, then we also have the project managers, and then we have the people that are doing the marketing. So we have a bunch of different areas of our business, and all of them really, a lot of times those different areas of the business require different personalities. And if you're not aware of that, the advice that you give a developer is not going to be great advice for someone that's very creative.
What would you say to an entrepreneur trying to build community and trust, not just traffic?
Honestly, I believe that is where the win is going to happen. The sites that we deal with that do very, very well have a community aspect, because traffic is getting so expensive. It's much harder to cast a big net and hope for to find them, and so it needs to be a lot more targeted. And I think the people that create a community where that community is telling other people matters a lot, and will be a huge differentiator moving forward, especially with AI and the lack of, if anything, we're getting less and less connected, and as humans we need that.
Agreed. What's your personal operating system in terms of daily routines, tools, or habits that keep you in growth mode?
Yeah, so I definitely get up early. I journal. I meditate every day. I do a cold plunge, and I try to get at least 30 minutes of exercise. So those are all like my non-negotiables. And I would say I'm probably 8 out of 10 days I get it. Um, Maybe 7 out of 10, depending on the week or if I'm traveling. But yeah, I think for me, my personality requires that structure, and that's allowed me to be a lot more effective. When I don't have it, I tend to chase fires and respond to a lot of stuff or react to a lot of stuff rather than respond. And so when I do that, it just centers me and grounds me and gives me a much better place to operate from.
Where can people follow what you're doing or get in touch with you?
Our website's buildgrowscale.com, and my email is just matt@buildgrowscale.com. So you can reach out and take a look, and if we can help you with your website, we would love to.
Great. Well, thank you for talking to us today, Matthew. This is very informative and enjoyable.
Thanks, Matt.
Yeah, thanks for having me.